622.
So what we'll do then is we'll put the JSASD up on that screen. Pardon me? Yeah, at some point here. Oh, yeah, it's true. Wait, where's the other camera coming from?
So what's going on there? Oh, I see.
We all good yet, Dave? You got
I'm
it?
not seeing it.
May 26th. That's not the one. You transition it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Pat, I'm not seeing a live stream of it.
All right, see if you. We just did it, so YouTube caches that stuff. So see if
Oh, no. 6.
622. Is it up? What's that? Okay, we're just waiting for YouTube. We're just waiting for YouTube to catch up right now. This happened before. Remember we put that link out there and it took a little bit for it to catch up? Yeah, we're waiting for YouTube to catch up. It's being kind of hokey right now. That's actually being streamed. Right now your audio is live. Just FYI.
Okay. I think it's live.
YouTube is slow today. Can you hear it? Can you hear the audio?
Yep.
You got audio?
Yep.
We are live, folks. So we'll get rid of that. Yeah.
Okay, just informally here, I'd like to apologize to everybody. We had an executive session that went a little long, and we ran into some technical difficulties, and I'll announce that officially during the official meeting. Call the June 22nd regular meeting of the Jersey Shore School Board of Directors to order. We have a roll call, please.
Certainly. Mr. Becker.
Here.
Mr. Brumgard.
Here.
Mrs. Dobler.
Here.
I'm here. Mr. Kinley. Here. Mrs. Cross. Here. Mrs. Stem. Here. Mrs. Thomas.
Here.
Mr. Allen.
Here.
And all 9 members present.
Thank you. We could stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have minutes to be approved tonight for May 4th, which was a capital project committee meeting, May 11th, regular board meeting, and May 26th, the regular board meeting, and all of those were conducted by virtual technology. Could I have a motion to approve? So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Treasurer's report, May 20th, or May 2020 Treasurer's report, and May 2020 investment report. Could I have a motion, please? Thank you. Any questions, comments, or corrections? Okay, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Approval of bills. $2,758,001.82. Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Second. Any questions, comments, or corrections? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Communications, Dr. Ulmer.
Tonight, we are, I'm sure that's later in the agenda. I would just like to say welcome back to the first in-public board meeting. We will continue this setup for a while. Please notice on the website there is a web address, an email address, and a phone number. Call in if you would like to be physically in the room for meetings. Please note on the website for meetings in the future, since we're going to maintain this socially distant atmosphere, that there is an email address and a phone number to call in to be in the room. There is also an email address to send public comment in or call, and we will call you for public comment during the meeting. Thank you. Nothing further, Mr. President.
President's report, just like to make an announcement that we had a executive session prior to the meeting tonight. One was for a annual review of the security plan by Dr. Davey, and the other one was for personnel. All items were in those two categories. IU report. Thank you, Mr. Petrosky. Superintendent's report.
I want to start by recognizing Dr. Dady to talk about our retirees.
All right, normally we have the retirees here if possible. Due to the conditions we're under right now, we're not able to do that. But we still wanted to give an opportunity to give a shout out to them. And at the end, I'll hold the blanket in front of the camera that we give our retirees. I'll show the board right now. It's basically a Jersey Shore area school district police blanket that we do get for them. And but we have Jenny Welsh, who's a middle school teacher who's taught math with us. She's been here for 33 years. She's going to have a lot of time with her grandbabies now, which brings me to the second person, which is Gina Wirt, because in case you're not aware, Jenny's daughter married Gina's son, so they'll probably be fighting over the grandbabies now, because now that they're both going to be retired, they'll have to figure out which grandparents get them when. But Gina taught various grades for us. She taught 6th grade at one point, and then primarily 5th grade most of her career. I believe she started out way back in the mid-90s as a math, I forget what they called it. It was a special math program. But Gina was actually the person I taught with first. And that's how I know I'm old, is because her 21-year-old daughter is the first baby I ever held. Colleen Weaver, been with us for 31 years. She retires after teaching 2nd grade at JSASD, and I had numerous opportunities to be in her classroom as well. Just a fantastic teacher. We appreciate her service as well. Deb Wheeler, a lot of you may know, she was our primary life skills teacher. You may also know her as Mrs. Claus on Candy Cane Lane many years, and so she'll have a lot more opportunity to do that. Just a fantastic teacher who, if you ever had the chance to talk to her, she can't stop talking about her kids. And she just loves them to death, so she'll be sorely missed, as she will miss them as well. Doreen Eisenhower has been our school nurse the past 21 years, and she actually came in from the field, and I know she travels quite a bit with her daughter. She posts a lot of pictures. I don't know if any of you have seen some of the pictures she posts with her daughter, and so I'm sure she's going to enjoy that time with her and her husband. Mary Clark and Rosemary Wagner are both retiring from food service. When I was the principal at JSC, they were there, and a lot of laughter going on in that. I love Mary's sarcastic sense of humor. So Mary, if you're listening, I'm really going to miss that, and appreciate all your guys' years. Mary had 20 years in the kitchen there, and Rosemary had 16. Bill Esposito was our groundskeeper. You know, we have groundskeeper on the agenda, the addendum tonight, and Bill's retiring. If you ever ran into Bill, you probably didn't get away very quick, because I guess spending a lot of time on the tractor by yourself saves up a lot of things you want to talk about, because if he got your ear, he wasn't going to let you go for a while. But thank you, Bill, for all your years of service as well. Harry Shields is retiring as well from the high school. He was a custodian there the past 10 years. This is kind of the second career for him. Again, a heck of a nice guy. If you've had the opportunity to talk with him at all, he's going to enjoy. I believe his wife retired before him, so now they'll be able to spend more time together, whether she wants to or not. And Dr. Wenrick's the other one on that list, and of course she moved back towards her family, and we appreciate the last 4 years she was able to give with us as well, and the different directions that she was able to lead our district during that time. So we apologize, folks, that you're unable to be here with us, but we do wish you all a very happy retirement. I hope everyone's been able to be on Facebook to see the different retiree honorable banners that we're able to put up there, and a lot of the comments that were underneath there, as a lot of these people, when you add this up, I mean, 33 years, 32, I mean, we've got a couple hundred years of service from these folks, and just a valuable member, every one of them a valuable member of our district the past few years, past 33 years for the one that has been here the longest. So let me hold this up to the camera so everybody can see what they'll be receiving, and if you see them out in the community, make sure you wish them a happy retirement.
Thank you, Dr. Dady. We do have the second feasibility study presentation this evening. Before we move to that, at your seat you should have copies of the handouts that were given by the architect.
Nice.
They were included for you in color so that you have them in front of you as the architect makes their presentation.
No, I think this will be fine, given how the room's set up.
All right, we're live.
They're up there on the top. You can probably
There's one in the middle. There's a spare out
slide out over there.
Are they talking right now?
Tonight's presentation will be from McKissick Architecture with the Larson Design Group, and I'm going to turn it over to them.
Okay, good evening. Vern McKissick here. Can you folks hear us on that end?
We can.
All right, well, that's true. All right. We'll work through technology here. We love technology till you have to use it. Well, thank you. Chris, you want to start taking us through?
Yep.
All right. Just what McKissick Associates, I'll just give the introduction. Just thank you for giving us a chance to talk to you. We've been providing planning from New York to North Carolina, primarily in Pennsylvania for about the last 20 years. My career goes back into the mid-'80s. And I think you're going to find some of the folks on our team tonight know a little bit about Jersey Shore as well. My perspective is taken from a graduate of Wellsboro, so we spent many times in the old gymnasium in the old building down there at basketball games. So know a lot about the area. What we do is schools. That's probably 80% of our market, whether it be new building renovations, and I think we just put a couple images past there. What we'll do now, just quickly, I think you want us to take about half hour total. So we've tried to set this up to give you just a sense of who we are, and talk a little bit about the what we think is going on out there in the world, and then specifically talk about the work plan we think would be appropriate to get you folks to where I think you're going. So just to start with the design team, everybody will introduce themselves as we go through. Again, I'm Vern McKissick, and well, first of all, the firm's 20 years in business, as we mentioned, about $2.5 billion, $2.2 billion in K-12 work. It's something we really like to do. Again, my background, 35 years in education, Penn State graduate, a registered architect, and a certified education facility planner, and we do schools.
Sorry.
Trina?
Sorry, I had you on mute there. I'm Trina Gribble. I have worked with Vern and Kristen and the McKissick team since 2000, working on a variety of educational projects. I'm a registered architect. I'm director of operations here, and I'm a lead accredited professional.
I'm Kristen. I do the interior design for the firm, but chiefly for studies. I'm actually a demographer and a GIS analyst. I was on the initial MapQuest development team, and so I have a love of cartography and statistics and numbers.
And we put that to good use.
I'm Ben Crum. I am a Director of Design and Security Specialist for the firm. I hold a CEPDED professional designation from the National Institute of Crime Prevention and an FPA 3000 for active shooter, hostile event, respond, plan, and recover. I'm also working on a physical security professional for the ASIS International, which is a large security group. I am also a member of National Association of School Resources, where I sit on the School Safety and Security Council, and I will be giving a presentation at their national conference coming up in August.
So Ben, you can put security after Ben's name. The team that we've put together, working with Larson Design Group, and we'll show you some of the experience we have working together. They would be providing support while we do architecture and education planning, but we'll be handling mechanical, electrical, plumbing items, structural engineering, civil, and again, security would be coming from our end. We've worked together many, many times, whether it be Columbia Montour, Indiana School District, Shikellamy, South Williamsport School District, Wellsboro School District. So we're kind of a known entity to each other as we go through. I'll turn that over to Matt.
Vern, I'll take it. This is Brad Larson. I'll introduce myself here in a minute. Appreciate the time. I apologize. I can't see the school board. My YouTube is apparently not working. Just to give you a 30-second overview of Larson Design Group, if you're not familiar with our firm, we're headquartered right down 220 from Jersey Shore and Williamsport. This slide is even getting a little dated now. It says 360 plus staff. We're actually creeping near the 400 level of staff right now. As Vern said, we've been around a while, about 34 years, founded by Ken Larson. You may have seen us on a number of other school projects in the area. Just to note a few in addition, Midwest athletic fields, Shikellamy, Selinsgrove, pretty much any school district in central Pennsylvania Larson's been involved in. And what's on the slide there, we've obviously, last but not least, we've been involved with the Jersey Shore School District for going on 20 years. And that's just a bulleted list of some of the projects we've done over the years with your folks. And Kristen, if you want to forward, we'll introduce our couple of team members here.
Well, my name is Matt Lamson. I'm a project manager in Larson's facilities engineering group. I've had the pleasure of working with Mark Wall and before him, Bruce Rogers, on many projects within the district, probably for about the last 10, 12 years. Many of those projects on the slide before that were projects that I worked on. So looking forward to continue that relationship.
Thank you, Matt.
Hi, I'm Micah Sweeney. I've been at Larson since 2007. I am a mechanical engineer, and I do HVAC and plumbing system design, sizing and selecting systems. I also have worked a little bit at Jersey Shore with the chiller replacement and the server room AC.
Thank you.
And as I said, I'm Brad Arndt. I'm a director in our site engineering group. We deal with the facilities outside of the buildings, the parking lots, the athletic fields. My team is located across the state into New York and into Ohio and West Virginia. But
Somebody say something.
the staff for this project would be coming out of Williamsport, so about 20 minutes down the road. Like everybody else in this call, I'm, I guess, relatively local. I'm a little south of you folks down in Mifflinburg, but a lot of our team, there's 11 family members of our employee-owned company are based in the Jersey Shore School District. So we are heavily invested in this region of Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Thank you, Brad. So that's the team. Just very quickly, a couple of projects, buildings you may have been in that we'd worked on together recently, whether it be Shikellamy, which was actually interesting. It was not designed as a green building, but won the Green Building Award anyhow for the use of ICF, LEDs, and all the other logical things that can be done to a building of that nature. Also, Williamsport Middle School, you may see this if you're heading up on West 4th Street there towards the high school. This was an abandoned building, concrete from 1949, and working with Larson folks, we brought her back to life as a LEED silver-rated school for allowing a lot of... Is that one of our people?
I don't think so.
Okay. I'm sorry.
We're good. We're good.
Keep moving, Chris. We'll work through it. And again, it was a wonderful experience to be able to bring that building back to life. So what are the key issues that we're really facing PA school districts? Of course, there's early childhood education and what to do with that. Chrissy, okay. Issues such as security, Ben? Oh, we might have lost Ben, so maybe that's what happened.
Okay. Well, you can talk to security a little bit.
From security for Pennsylvania has kind of been always developing here, and this last few months we've seen the COVID situation kind of throw that all into a new arena for us. There's been a lot with trying to look at how that's going to integrate and change security, but we're still not trying to lose track of the everyday issues as well as those active assailant possibilities that are out there, and how that all kind of fits into our design process while keeping schools inviting and nurturing and not prison-like. We're also kind of knowing that with the mandate for SRO training, things have been developing there, and we're starting to see different funding streams coming available for those SROs and different types of security and safety kind of programs. So it's always something that's ongoing and changing.
Thank you, Ben. Of course. STEM and education is something, and these are all renovation retrofits of existing buildings, spaces that have been repurposed, found space, because that is one of the greatest changes that everyone has seen over the time.
Ken, I just went on live stream here on my iPad, so on my other iPad, so I can watch it as long as it doesn't interfere with the signal. Is that all right? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Bye.
All right. I think we may have one or two board members that are remote tonight. So I know there's some time delay. And of course, the other major issue that school systems are facing and have been facing for a number of years since the 2008 timeframe is budgetary optimization. We'll talk a little bit more about that.
So I can talk to that a little bit. A lot of what I do is statistics, and so the graphics that you're seeing examples of here are examples of determining where the longest busing routes are and what the cost for those busing routes are.
Knowing that with the mandate for SRO training, things have been developing there, and we're starting to see different.
Are you guys still hearing us in Jersey Shore?
Yeah, Therese just had to mute herself. Yes, we're still hearing you.
Okay, so sorry.
Yeah, we've been getting some strange feedback, so my apology.
So some of the analysis is based on what kind of deviation there is at various schools from cost of lunches, so that we can see that, you know, the diversity is spread for socioeconomics when necessary and when that's relevant. And we talk about utilization. How well is the school utilized? And what is that based on? Is that based on classrooms that are too small and not counted at all, but there's room? And so we look at all of those when we look at optimizing issues at a school to make its operation more efficient and more affordable in the long term.
Thank you, Chris. So at the end of the day, those are things that are happening now, but the question is what's in the future? Some of these things on the screen here, whether it be Facebook, LinkedIn, so on and so forth, didn't exist 10 and 15, 20 years ago when your schools were planned, and what will be 10 or 15, 20 years in the future. So that's a little bit of how we're seeing it. I guess then to get into how we would work with Jersey Shore specifically. And, our process is really based on what we call learn, design, and create. Working with input from you folks, documenting work sessions and input and oversight of the information as it's processed and distributed. And in your specific case, as we go to the study, next please. Well, Chris, why don't you take this real quick?
Okay. One of the big processes that we go through in that input section, that learning about you section, is a community input process whereby we invite you to build an advisory team, and that's done with your assistants, and you identify active people in your community, in your PTA, members of the ministerium, people that you know are involved and have a good outreach and a good conduit to the public in general, so that we can get information from them about their concerns, about what are they most afraid of in terms of cost, what are they most excited about doing in the future, what are they hoping to be able to do if they have some new facilities, or what are they hoping to be able to maintain if they have to reduce their costs. And so we do this through a community engagement group. We take that building advisory team and we have a number of meetings with them in person. We show them maps, we show them plans, we show them drawings. And a lot of times what we're doing is throwing out a lot of concepts. This gives you an opportunity to test an idea without being the target of various people's disagreements. So we can throw out an idea about expanding in one place or reducing something in some other place, get some feedback on that, and then you as a board have the opportunity to assimilate that information and form an appropriate response and feed that back to the public. The process is still transparent, but it gives you the time to understand what their concerns are and then react in a way that addresses those concerns. You can look at your budget. You can say, yes, I think we can accommodate that desire that the public has to create this other resource or to expand these types of programs, and how can we trim that? And the public and the taxpayers have the confidence of knowing that through this building advisory team, they will have someone who is a member of their neighborhood or their community in some way, so that they know that they're getting information back that's not coming directly from the board, but that's also been heard and discussed in a public group, and that keeps that transparency that allows you to build trust with everybody so that nobody's worried about not hearing the whole story or not knowing what the problems really are, and that everybody feels like they're represented with their interests.
Right, and Chris, if just, I'm just keeping an eye on time, maybe we'll just go quickly through the three-phase process and leave some time for questions.
Okay.
Just, as we do this, there are ranking tools, we take basically things that are subjective and take them into a mathematical rubric, so that it's the math telling you the solution as opposed to individual opinions. Next. What you're seeing here are examples of some of those spreadsheet rubrics that we've used in school systems to make very difficult decisions, sometimes closures, sometimes realignments. Next. We end up with a ranking exercise where the math tells you what's first, second, and third. And then we'll also, do some voting along the way. So as we get into the actual study itself, next please. We've got phase one, which is data gathering, and as Chris talked about, the GIS approach to demographics. We do our own modeling because we don't think much of Department of Education projections. Next.
We usually use a set of 7 projection models averaged together based on the personal information that we know about your district. And essentially in this first phase of data, there's nothing really controversial. Phase one is about making sure everybody is aware of what the parameters are and what the limitations are and what the budgets are and what the goals are. And there's usually nothing very surprising there.
But it may be just taking islands of information or silos and connecting them together. So at the end of this phase, one of the things we will do is with that we talk about educational assessments, we talk about demographic assessments. The third leg of the stool, of course, is facility assessments. And as you'll see here, this is one of the matrices we will use to take what the folks from Larson and what our folks find as you look at different systems, electrical, plumbing, electric, lifespans, and bring those together to determine the relative ranking of an individual building. Sometimes that's very important when you've got 2 buildings that are tough to decide one or the other, if that's the case. Next, please. And again, just ways of graphically depicting very complicated charts of data in a quickly discernible mode. Whether it's print or web or internet, looking at how monies are spent between buildings, just the graphical approach. And of course, one of the things that's been talked about, we talked about buildings a lot, but also I know that sports and athletics are a component. Brad?
Yeah, a lot of times the athletic facilities are overlooked in these projects, and they're often very controversial. As you said, the money is finite, and a lot of people view athletics as secondary, and that is sometimes the case. I know, and I'll throw this to Matt Williamson, I know that part of this project includes the study of some of Jersey Shore's fields. Matt, if you want to run down.
Yeah, absolutely. We part of this study, we plan on evaluating the football field, the baseball field, soccer field, and the tennis courts as part of this study. So
all of that then is presented as Kristen indicated as a baseline presentation. There's nothing confrontational there, but that's what it is. That is maintenance needs. That's what's coming in 5 years, 10 years, remaining life on systems. Then we get into the study phase, and as Kristen mentioned, stop. There we go. That's my alarm telling me I had 20 minutes, so I want to keep moving. But basically, what we'll do at the end of phase one is when we begin option generation. We have all the data, everyone meets and agrees upon it, can be done in a public setting. Working with the advisory committee, the first meeting is to review the information gathered, and then we begin to cast out options that are looking at rate sizing, class sizes. Sometimes it's build nothing, sometimes it's a small addition, sometimes it's found space, modifying things in a building. In occasions, I like this quote from Steve Jobs, a lot of times people don't know what they want until you show them. And I'll go back to one project that we did at Westmont Hilltop School District. They had a elementary, middle school, and high school, and brought us on board to look at remodeling and upgrading their middle school. end of the day, we ended up actually converting them to a K-6 and a 712 configuration, eliminating the middle school, putting a new elementary on the site of the middle school, but paying for the whole $36 million program through staff and operational realignments. None of us thought that's what we were hired to do. So sometimes you got to get outside the box. These are the graphics we use to try and depict things that are reproducible in the newspaper. It's more complicated. It's happened to be down at Mifflin County a few years back where we did a major redo. We often get into the mapping issues of attendance areas. I know Kristen did 39 hours of online presentations for Downingtown in order to help them decide Downingtown East and Downingtown West and who got to more high school kids. It was really not fun. We use a lot of internal. Yeah, it was no fun. But you got it done. And all the board members kept their jobs, and so did the superintendent. Communication, when we're doing these type of community work, we will do it on a secure back-end exchange so that questions can go back and forth. Again, we want to make sure that things are vetted before everything is dumped out into public setting, lest the information not be presented completely. Because we know there can be stressors in the community. So into phase 2, we have a series of options. We've gone through the ranking exercise that we talked about. Then we go into basically asking the board to pick one or pick two to really go from the 10,000 foot level down to the 5,000 foot level and create what we'll call the master action plan. And that is timing, that is looking more closely at numbers cost-wise. In this particular case, this was, let's see, this was, down in, up in Groton. Things such as transportation, capital cost improvement avoidance, energy costs for taking square footage offline more efficient, operations and maintenance, co-curricular savings, CTC program savings or CT expansions, support staff, administrative staff, teaching staff. Many times what we found is that a project, if there's a need to realign space or realign it, it can actually be done at little or no cost once you look at staff and assignments, reassignments. The kind of graphics you'll get at the end of phase 3, if we're doing a spatial realignment, might look something like this. It's not designed, but it's enough that you can understand where things might go in relationships. Of course, schedule is always important because sometimes you've got to do something in one place to move it to something else, to move it to a third location. And with schools, that's particularly important because we don't want to disrupt education and we want to keep everybody safe. But we don't always have the luxury of empty buildings. And just to get into the technology piece, and just very quickly, we of course use BIM, which is the standard, that's Revit, and 3D modeling to be able to convey and communicate systems. Next, please. We'll work with the kids. This happened to be a middle school. Chris and I worked on actually down North Carolina, where the middle schoolers helped us design the STEM Center. And it was a lot of fun with them spending the week using virtual reality. But one of the things is the top image here, that was the model. The model image is the same space, renovated space, completed. Top image was a modeled space, and the bottom is that area renovated. So we can convey what might happen even when there is no building happening. It's just realigning spaces. So the one thing I wanted to get to, because I think it's the most important piece tonight, is to talk about the timeline and effort, because that's always one of the questions. A lot of times we see studies where it's $1,000 a building, and it's a standard formula, and you get you get the solution that you get. We really are looking at a lot of hours, and what you'll see here, and this is included in the handout the board members were given, are the different categories of educational planners, engineers, architects, data analysts, and so on. That will be spent on the various tasks. Just in phase 1, we're looking at nearly 186 hours. As we move into phase 2, we're looking at another 112 hours at least, and that includes stakeholder meetings. We usually budget 4 to start. And then, of course, at the end of that's a presentation selection for the final option refinement, another 100 hours. So all in all, as we get into an effort like this, you're going to see the total closes in on about 450 hours.
And you'll notice that most of those hours are heavily loaded under the educational planner, the architect, the engineer. It's not just people filling out forms. We're really spending the time with you, understanding your issues
On the ground.
and making sure that you're actually getting a chance to have input into those and not just getting.
And again, schedule, I won't spend any time on this because we prepared it a little while back, but the durations are correct. Essentially, these are typically 6-month processes. We can do them a little quicker. We've done them longer if that's necessary. The key thing is that you're looking at about 2 months for the first phase, typically a month and a half to 2 months for the second phase, which is option development. We can also work in, you'll see optional public review of options. At times, schools have asked us to take a pause, present information. As we did at Williamsport years ago, we actually brought in pizzas and food, and we set up at 5 different places and did presentations for who came out.
In a town hall style meeting, so that everybody had a chance to hear it from the horse's mouth.
And again, it's dependent on the board and the approach they like to take. Phase 3 tends to be another month. Goal originally had was to have this done towards the end of October, so that you'd be in a position to make decisions for the coming school year. Next, please. So again, the fees, as we broke them out, you can see hopefully how the hours relate to the efforts that we're anticipating. Next. And so just to close out and to move over to questions, because I got a lot of good folks on the panel up here. Why are we different? I think as Chris indicated, our solutions come from process. They're not just a preconceived notion. They're not just a formulaic. We know what you want because we ask. It's the time that it takes to sit down and work with you. We spend the time with you on our study processes. And I think if you check our references and talk to the folks we've worked with, you're going to see that everyone on their screen here are straightforward people that you can trust. And again, no agendas, no nonsense, just getting you the service that you guys need to be able to make decisions. So with that, I'd like to flip over and try and take some questions, and we'll just direct them as appropriate.
Questions from the board?
We want to just go around the table, or do it spontaneously?
Okay.
Are they on Dr. Davey? Okay. Dave has no questions at this time. Patrice, if you can hear me, do you have any questions?
No, not at this time, but I have to watch the whole presentation on YouTube later. I missed a great part of it. I couldn't hear what was being said.
Okay, let's start with Mrs. Petrosky then.
I don't have a question. I'm fine.
Mr. Brungard, you're up.
You answered my one at a time, timeline, I guess you're talking basically about to start to finish, you give a presentation, I believe, correct?
Okay, that didn't come through terribly clearly, sir.
You got your mic.
You want me to repeat?
Yes, please.
I think you answered my question there, but I think I was concerned about the timeline there. So from start to finish, and I think you're talking basically about from the time you start to the time you make a presentation to the board would be approximately 2 months.
For the data gathering, typically on a project this size, between 6 and 8 weeks to get in, do the measurement, do the calculations, meet with staff, meet with administration, and do our number crunching. That's usually the heaviest lift. Is about half our effort. If you look at how the hours spread, is on that first piece.
And there's other information that you get from us. It's not like we go away and then come back 6 weeks later and tell you things. You have a lot of two-way communication in there. We'll do staff surveys for which you will get the results. We usually conduct something, those types of things anonymously, and then we'll summarize them and talk to you. So we'll have smaller meetings. We just won't have an overall large presentation until we've had a chance to assemble it and be able to present it to you and the public.
Again, I think the key thing with us is it's a process with a number of stations. The first is baseline, what exists. Second is the ideas that could be, heavily based on education. And third is what is the reality of any of those ideas and how could be achieved, as opposed to coming back and dropping a report on your desk that doesn't go anywhere. Because we want it to be your plan as much as it's anything we generate.
If you were selected from the point of being notified, what would be the time frame for you to start?
Well, I think typically we would be in a position to start probably as quickly as 7 to 10 days. Summertime, we want to start sooner because, again, we don't know what the fall session is going to look like, but we would want to be able to get access to your buildings while they're still open and, we can get into spaces without interrupting programs.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Craig Allen. I'm concerned with all the changes that we're seeing with COVID. If we had any new construction, how much additional costs are we looking at for filtering, ventilation, any building changes that are a result of the COVID issues?
Right. I'm going to probably let the engineers speak up on this relative to the HVAC system, because that is probably the biggest variable that everyone's still trying to determine, because everybody said put a mask on. But I think this stuff is proving to go a little more airborne, and so air system redesign is going to change substantially. But within the buildings themselves, we're really looking at things like touchless fixtures, hardwired faucets and flushers that you're not touching in bathrooms. We're talking about dividers even within sinks to get the social distancing there. I think as Ben started to talk about, entry portals, entry sallies. One of the things we're working on with one of our clients right now is we're installing in a high school a series of sensors that actually the question is they have 1,400 students to bring in, and they'll be required by state law in that case to take everyone's temperature every day before they enter, using actually a thermal sensor mounted on the door connected to the security system. And it's a new world on those, and it's kind of a moving target. Mechanically, Micah, Brad, I'll let you guys.
So I've had some discussions with manufacturers. There are specific UV systems to deal with COVID that can be installed in ductwork. A lot of it on the cost side, we would have to see. It depends on what kind of systems you have. The costs aren't unreasonable, but again, that's something we want to get into more detail for sure.
If you've got a newer building like your high school, you have air systems, they're easier to deal with. Older schools with unit ventilators, not so much, because you have to treat it at each individual room. So we're figuring it out.
So for you put up a few square footage estimates for what certain projects cost. I think one of them was Williamsport. Was it $148, I believe, the middle school?
Yeah, Williamsport. Yes, sir.
What would you just, off the cuff estimate of what that increase would be because of the COVID changes?
At this point, it depends on what the final metrics on the disease itself are. Because there's still conflicting information coming out relative to spread and so on and so forth. But the biggest variable, like I said, I think you're looking at a 3%, 5% increase for things like hand wash and different surfaces that are non-contact and things like that. The architectural piece, the mechanical one's the tougher one to quantify. I guess for years, we've been spending time trying to make our buildings as tight as possible, using energy recovery wheels and just sipping air in a very little bit of quantity. That's completely counter to dealing with airborne.
Because we asked, yes, the time that is to sit down and work.
So, yeah, we just got a feedback there for a second. Mike, would you, from a system standpoint, the folks you've talked to, it's really hard to say, but I do think we're going to be seeing increased outside air quantities as one of the solutions.
Yeah, I mean, they're still trying to figure that out right now. So, solutions changing.
Yeah, if you're looking at COVID capacities, we've been calculating those for schools lately. You know, when you're going to, if you're separating by 6 feet, what does that do to a classroom? That classroom now holds 9 or 12 students, but the mechanical system is designed with enough air for 30. So have we already begun to solve for the problem because you reduce the density of people? It really, I think as Micah said, you have to look at each building individually for its system to be able to say what the change might be. We should be more quantitative than that, but it's a one by one.
We wish PDE could be more quantitative too, but.
Yeah, there's that. The one thing we can say is we have a construction moratorium for yet another year, but one of the categories that they are going to allow, I understand the monies to be released, is for security, which bleeds into some of the COVID improvements. Now, how that's going to be spun out and made available, grants or proportion, we don't know yet.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Questions? Dr. Ulmer, do you have any questions?
I do not. I will also offer, as I did the last time, if any board members think of any questions after tonight, please send them to me and I will pass them along.
Yeah, good. We'll certainly look to try and answer those for you. Do you have a target still? I know this is starting a little later than you originally thought, for when you'd like to make a decision and get started?
I think it's probably too early for us to tell on that one as well. We're worried about getting kids back in school right now.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, we'll thank you on behalf of everybody on the team here, and we'll certainly welcome the chance to get there in person with you. Hopefully that will be happening sooner than later as things move along this summer. And we'll wait for any questions.
Thank you.
Good evening. Night.
Yeah.
For having us.
Thank you.
I have nothing further, Mr. President.
Okay.
Yep, that's good. Yep, all good.
Okay, the next thing we need to do before courtesy of the floor is we have an addendum to add on to personnel, and that's items K through S. And those are all primarily new hires. Just to do a quick overview, we have it's like 8, 7 teachers, a school nurse, and a groundskeeper. Just for information of the public, I think 6 of the, without going through every single one of those, 6 of the new teachers were hired at step 1 on the bachelor scale, and 1 was hired at M6 for a special education teacher. step one being 45,000 a year, and step six being 55,950. So could I have a motion to add K through S on the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Any questions, comments? I put it down at the last one, so. Any other comments or questions on the addendum to tonight's personnel agenda? Okay, hearing none. I have a vote. All in favor of adding the items signify by saying yay. Yay.
Yay.
Opposed? Thank you. Do we have any other anticipated changes that we haven't discussed already? Excuse Mrs. Dobler, can you still hear us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We did have one change to the previously published personnel items, and that was to remove Eric Hewling as a boys tennis coach for further consideration.
Okay.
And other than the addendum, the only difference you should see on your agenda, besides what was posted to you last Friday, was we had a resignation that we added to the agenda to act on because we received it on Friday.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the personnel agenda as amended.
Don't we have to have courtesy before?
Oh, yes, we do. Courtesy of the floor, sorry. Thank you, Mrs. Thomas.
What amendment was added to this? I missed a big part of this meeting.
The additional personnel items.
Okay.
And removing the boys tennis coach for consideration for tonight.
Okay.
Okay, courtesy of the floor, Mr. Pryor.
Thank you. Bob Pryor. Is this on? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bob Pryor, Mifflin Township. First, I'd like to welcome Dr. Ulmer
Thank you.
to the district. As a taxpayer and past board member, I look forward to meeting with you sometime and speaking with you. Best of luck on your new position. Okay. Back in 2007, I believe it was 2007, but Judge Anderson ruled that Jersey Shore School District could increase property school taxes by 26%. The reason? The district only had $5,000 in the general fund. That was because of poor management, among other reasons. That concerned me as a taxpayer, so I ran for school director. I'm proud to say I was on a board of education that became united and actually looked out for the welfare of the students, staff, and taxpayers. We discussed consolidation and did a feasibility study. We discovered the district had inefficient facilities. Also, Nipponos Elementary was scheduled for $3 million in renovation cost. Then we discovered that the students were being shipped or sent from Jersey Shore Elementary to Nipponos to keep class sizes large enough. We did the only rational thing. We closed that school while at the same time renovated and increased the size of Jersey Shore Elementary. That's a Class 1 school right now. I'm sure anybody who's gone through that school would agree with that. It's a beautiful school. Now the Nipano students are attending a beautiful, like-new facility with more opportunity and with a clean and safer environment. Also, safer protection from any harm to the students or staff, because the police are pretty darn close. We had a plan to close the outlying elementaries as the student population declined and as the other buildings increased in maintenance costs. We had a plan. We looked down the road, not at the windshield. When you receive the next feasibility study results, which I'm sure are going to be even worse than the last one, what will you do as board members? And why will you do it? The taxpayers expect specifics from each one of you. Why you vote, how you do. Just one final comment. This is my own opinion. As school directors, you need to remember that you represent the students and taxpayers, not your own interests. That's my own opinion. I believe some board members should ponder on that question. Thank you.
Okay, we only had one other person. Mr. Schweitzer, did you want to say anything, or you just attend? Okay, thank you. All right, we'll close courtesy of the floor. We had no requests.
We had no requests for calls.
For phones. Yep.
And we had no emailed in comments either.
Thank you, Dr. Ulmer. And now we'll go back to seeking a motion for the personnel item as amended to include up until item S.
So moved.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, is this just voting on the addendum?
This is to vote on the entire, the addendum and
Okay, can I
the
ask
previous items.
to have A removed for a roll call vote, please?
Which one is that?
A.
Mhm.
Did you have a second on that motion?
Yeah, we need to have a second before we can have a discussion. I'm sorry.
I'll second it.
Okay, now any questions, comments, or concerns? Now is the time for her to officially ask, right? Correct.
Okay. May I please have letter A taken for a roll call vote?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
I have a request. Letter H, varsity wrestling position. I'd like to have a roll call vote on that. Not removing it, but just have a roll call vote.
Okay. Will do. Any other questions or comments? Okay. We'll take the roll call votes first. First will be item A.
Mr. Becker.
Just to be clear, I need to pull up item A in front of me. Hold on.
I didn't understand
He's pulling up. He doesn't
Looking at the agenda.
that. What?
Yes.
Mr. Brungard.
No.
Mrs. Dobler.
Yes.
Mrs. Grant, which is myself, no. Mr. Kinley.
Although I think Dr. Dady is deserving of a token of appreciation
I believe in light of our $1.1 million budget deficit and the COVID problem that put a lot of people, a lot of taxpayers out of work, and adding payroll taxes and retirement benefits to the 7,500. We have a cost to the district of just shy of 10,000, and I think that's sending a wrong message to our taxpayers, so I vote no.
Mrs. Petrosky.
Yes.
Mrs. Stemler. Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
Mr. Allen.
Yes.
Five yeses, 4 noes.
Okay. Item A passes. Now we'll move on to item H, specifically the wrestling position for a roll call of renewing the head coach for wrestling.
Mr. Becker.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Brumgard.
No.
Mrs. Dobler.
This vote is to say yes if we want to retain David Herman for the wrestling position, right?
Yes to retain, yes.
I say yes.
Mrs. Grant, which is myself, yes. Mr. Kinley.
No.
Mrs. Petrosky.
No.
Mrs. Stemler. Mrs. Thomas.
Yes.
Mr. Allen.
No.
Five yeses, 4 noes.
Okay, and it passes to retain the wrestling head coach. Any other special requests for any of the other items on the personnel agenda? Okay, so hearing none, we'll be voting now on items B through H with H amended. I as amended through S. So essentially all remaining items under personnel. Any further discussion or questions on those items?
I have a question referencing J. Just clarification as to what that is, please.
J is the appointment of Stacy Passetti as a paid game staff for the sports program. And these are typically positions, timers, clock, people that run the clock at games. It's a relatively minimal hourly rate, I think. Is that not correct? Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor of those items other than the ones that were amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Anyone opposed? Mrs. Delbert, could you hear?
Yes, I can hear you. No, I don't oppose.
Okay, I was just checking. I thought it looked like your mic might have been off or something. So,
No.
okay, thank you. So all those items pass by general consensus. Moving on to building and grounds. I'm sorry, curriculum instruction. Purchase the high school psychology textbook as recommended by the social studies department. Have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
Is there a price on that?
price on that, Dr. Davy or Dr. Elmer?
Not in front of me. That was the one that was on display for. We displayed that for a couple months in the boardroom, but I don't know that I have the price in front of me. I don't have a price in front of me.
So it's just for one book? It's not for like for a class? Is that right?
It is for the psychology course at the high school.
Oh, so it's more than one book. Okay.
And that's a new course, I believe, correct? Any other questions? Okay, does anyone wish to have this removed until the next meeting, pending research on the price? Mrs. Vogler?
Yes.
Mr. Daly's going to try to get the price on the text right now.
Okay.
First day back in the room, we're not going as smoothly as we normally do.
Don't we usually have the price listed when something on the agenda to approve or disapprove when it comes to purchasing?
Typically, yes.
That's what I thought. Okay.
And as Dr. Ulmer said, this has been kind of sitting out there for a while, so.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Keen may have actually given us the price when he presented it there a few weeks ago, or a couple months ago, whatever that was. But I don't recall. Okay, so that would be $3,800 for how many textbooks? And how many textbooks do we get for that price? 30? Okay, Mrs. Velber, did you hear that?
Okay.
$3,800 for 30 textbooks.
Okay.
And I assume it's budgeted.
Wow. That's expensive textbooks. Yeah.
Which is normal for textbooks today, but I assume it's in the budget.
You don't have any choice, do you?
We're offering the course, so
Right. You need a book.
we need a book.
Simple.
This was the book that was recommended by the department head and the principal.
This will be just new course. This is it's on the agenda.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Finance items, A and B, they are both related to COVID support. Could I have a motion to approve finance A and B?
So moved.
And motion by Mrs. Thomas, second by Mrs. Petrowski. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Comments, just a couple. both of these are grants.
Correct.
It's not budgeted items or grants coming to us.
Are you picking it up, Patrick? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. So again, for the public, if you didn't hear that, both of these items are grants for the district. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Miscellaneous A through H. Any questions, or I'm sorry, I have a motion to approve A through H. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay, any questions or concerns?
I have a question, actually. As I read through this, it pertains to the concession stands. Is outdoors referencing baseball concession stand, track and field, and indoors like a swim team concession? Is it black and white like that? Because there's very different rules for both. Under page 5, level 3.
You talking about the safety plan?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, yes. Thank you, Mrs. Thomas.
Oh. I assume that comes from the state. You know, Serena?
That's what we are recommending, that they follow
The CDC guidelines, I think is what you're looking for.
the guidance for business and restaurant industry. So they have to follow those regulations and those actions.
Would that be like an example of like the baseball concession stand though would be outdoors, whereas indoors where it says no concession stand would be, I guess, specifically an example of an indoor concession stand? I just think from a booster standpoint, I'm not
So
sure. if there's
level
questions.
3, we're looking at no concession stands at all at that point.
At level 3?
Yes. Once we get into level 4, the way the plan's set up, it should take us into the start of fall sports as regulated by PIAA when their practices start. So if we go through this starting soon, it'll take us through the summer, get us back in with everybody getting back into gear, and then that should open everything back up, and we'll have regular concession stands at events come fall. That's the design of the plan. It's they won't do, like, team gatherings won't do team meals before they start the regular season of practice or anything that they might have done over the summer before.
So as long as the phased-in process goes smoothly, and we don't have to go back a step, by the time fall sports start, as long as we follow that 3-phase process, it should look fairly normal for fall sports, unless we get moved back.
And all of our fall sports are outdoors, right?
Yes.
Serena?
So
So it's not till winter that we move indoors.
But they do summer workouts at the fitness center, and so that'll be the primary concern, I would say, or focus of our look at right now is the fitness center, those regulations inside. Otherwise, their practices are outside.
Just a question, I guess a comment. These guidelines are mostly directed by the PIAA, correct?
These guidelines,
for the most part.
The guidelines there were guidelines set out by the National Federation of High Schools, and then schools put together their own, kind of from those guidelines, incorporating Governor Wolf's guidelines, the CDC guidelines. PIAA never officially came out and said, here's our guidelines. They did look at some of the plans that were floating around, and I've gathered all those plans to put ours together. And so
they did support them and say, hey, this is what, you know, we're in agreement with this, but we're not gonna come out and say, these are our guidelines.
Did you look at this at all? Are we protected at this? The reason I say this, I've heard a lot of teams are making players sign a waiver if they contact it within.
I have a waiver set up, yep.
That's within this?
The coaches will sign a waiver that they've reviewed material and they've gone through a training with me. The participants will sign a waiver that states, these are your precautions and, you know, you're taking a risk by being involved with this group.
So we're basically protected if they come in contact within the sporting event.
Yeah, we have that waiver.
Yes, PDE put out a waiver in their proposed guidelines for use by all districts. I think almost every district I've seen has incorporated that waiver into the plan. Plans tend to deviate just a little bit based on what type of sports they have going on and what each district wants to utilize as far as their guidelines. But your plan is compliant with what PDE's put out, plus the National Organization of School Athletics. Again, PIAA has not put out their own official yet. I believe they had a meeting today to start discussing their proposals moving forward, but they have not officially sanctioned anything from a regulatory guideline other than they're simply telling districts you got to still comply with PIAA regulations or else.
I think the only requirement they have is that it has to be posted on the website before we do anything.
And that is a PDE requirement, correct?
So that's the only thing that they truly come out and say. So
it comes to you for approval. Once you approve it, then it gets posted on the website and it also gets submitted to PDE for.
I've worked with the band director to include his activities and the music department with it to incorporate them into it. But as a PHAC school, we have worked together as athletic directors so that not only am I writing this, but we wrote it kind of together and took ideas from each other to write it so we're all on the same page. So if we go to Williamsport, they're not written the exact same as ours, but we can understand that they're also looking at the same ideas we have.
A lot of the deviations I've seen personally is just related to how each district reacts to maybe a positive testing or things like that. But everybody's using pretty much unilaterally the same procedures for cleaning, for conducting activities amongst the different sports, and how they're regulating those extracurricular activities.
Yep.
Just one thing for anybody in the public that may be watching. Can you describe what's going on with the top of page 5 pre-workout screenings of what those requirements are?
All right. So I created a form that the question.
You can just describe it. We don't need the specific questions.
You knew I would have them.
If you like. I just wanted to make sure people, out watching the meeting.
Basic questions: last name or first name, last name. What sport you're here to participate or activity, including band and theater and any of those activities. If you've had have you had any of the symptoms of COVID-19 in the past 14 days? Fever, chills, cough, sore throat, shortness of breath, and loss of taste. And it's just a yes or no answer. And these are recorded on the student's cell phone or the coach's cell phone. So they'll use a QR code, they'll scan into the questionnaire, and then it's automatically recorded on that. That then is, the results then are all come back to me. Hopefully I will never have to look at them. But that way, they're recorded, they're time-stamped, they give me a location and what group this person was with if we have a positive answer to these questions. Moving on, the questions will also ask if you are in close contact with someone, and if we decided to take temperatures, if that was a requirement, we have a place to record temperatures and the location of the workout. So if they were in the fitness center
And that day at that fitness center, we had 4 different groups in the fitness center that would encompass all those people involved. So I broke it down into sport plus location to show who was there on what days and what times they were there and who else, to have that contact tracking of who was involved there.
And these would be asked daily, correct?
Yes, daily questions by the coach, and then they can all record them. And the coach isn't necessarily recording it. If the student comes up and goes, okay, I'm ready to do it, coach asks them the questions, they answer the questions, and then they submit it, and it just goes to the file. Hopefully never needed.
We just want to make sure everybody's confident that we're doing appropriate screening. So, thank you. Any other questions on the miscellaneous agenda items? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Anybody have anything for old business? I have one item. I had PSBA reached out to me to request whether we had anybody interested in being the PSBA rep for our district, as representing our school district and PSBA for the athletic participation in the district, and Dave has been in contact with them. Do you know what, have you heard anything back from them yet, Dave?
Dave,
talking.
you're muted.
We're not hearing you.
I did put in my application for that, Craig. I did not hear anything back from them yet.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. No need for a second courtesy of the floor. We need an executive session, Dr. Omer?
Nope. My agenda items were covered in the first executive session.
Okay. Mr. Pryor?
Bob Pryor, Mifflin Township again. I really wasn't going to say anything, but the hirings caught my attention. I realized that you needed to hire 2 special ed educators for the outlying schools because of the PDE requirements. I really don't know how many students they're going to have, but anyway, so I'm assuming there were 6 members of the staff that retired or quit for some other reason. Is that true? I mean, what was the number of retirements or any other numbers because people quit or whatever? Are we hiring additional, excluding the 2 special ed people, are we hiring more staff than we had? Pretty simple.
Other than the
Okay, thank you. That clears me up.
Okay. Mr. Schweitzer, do you have anything? You're the only other one out there, so.
Sure you don't want to talk?
Well, thank you for coming. Okay, looking for a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Second.
You're counting the vote, so you can take credit for it if you want. Mrs. Grant made the motion.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you for understanding our delays tonight.